In the year 2018, there were nearly 700,000 marijuana arrests. And according to the ACLU, this is more arrests. Oh my God. In the year 2018, there were nearly 700,000 marijuana arrests, and according to the ACLU, this exceeds the number of arrests for all violent crimes combined. Just let that sink in for a moment. I don't believe anyone should be sitting in a jail cell or convicted of a criminal charge due to marijuana use or possession, so long as they aren't distributing to minors, which is obviously illegal in and of itself. This is a drug that we know to be extremely medically beneficial, as well as a drug that is legalized and or decriminalized in more than half the United States. This is a relevant topic because convictions that lead to jail time can completely ruin someone's future. Some of us might not come from a family of money or have the resources to fight a conviction about marijuana that wealthier people might be able to. And therefore, this is also an issue for minorities and people who don't have the means to fight a conviction. Marijuana is legalized or decriminalized in more than half of the United States. So why are people still sitting in jail cells because of this drug? We need to implement laws that prevent this from happening and destroying the lives of thousands of people. There are far too many people held criminally accountable for a drug that is legalized in this country. While the U.S. accounts for only 5% of the world's population, it holds nearly 25% of the world's prisoners. And to narrow in on the issue of marijuana arrests, according to Joan Olek and Forbes, 40,000 Americans are incarcerated for marijuana offenses, even as the overall cannabis industry is booming. Also, this is a pressing issue because marijuana arrests decline year over year, according to NORML, a website, but still outpace arrests for all violent crimes. So the reality is, according to Richard Bronson, who is the CEO and founder of a staffing agency for people with criminal records, there are 70 million people in this country with criminal records, and each and every one of them goes through hell in finding a job. So think about it this way. Marijuana is a drug that is being legalized in most of our country, yet these offenses are still occurring despite the fact that we are well aware that marijuana is not as dangerous as we once thought it was. I mean, it's literally being legalized in states, and the multiple medicinal benefits it provides. So these offenses are absolutely destroying the lives of thousands of people. It seems absolutely contradicting. We can't legalize a drug but also punish people for using or possessing it. According to procon.org, 33 states have legalized medical marijuana and 11 have legalized recreational use. So the state governments should implement laws that states no person can be criminally charged due to marijuana use or possession if the state itself has legalized it. Also, anyone who is sitting in a jail cell due to a marijuana conviction should be released, and that charge should be dropped from their record, because this would allow these people to have a second chance at a future without a tarnished record due to a marijuana charge. States that have mixed legal status, according to DESA, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, and other states that have mixed legalized status, they need to solidify this legalization status so that there aren't loopholes that people can fall victim to. Although marijuana is still considered a drug, is that really how we still view it? The cannabis and CBD industry is booming because of the proven medicinal benefits and little risk that it poses. So I feel like the drug argument is a little bit outdated. And although it is still considered a Schedule I drug according to the DEA, this is the same scheduled drug as heroin, scheduling drugs is extremely complicated. According to Vox, something that most people don't know is that the classification of a drug doesn't mean that the federal government thinks of marijuana and heroin as equally dangerous drugs. So the scheduling of drugs is a very complicated system, and a Schedule I drug means that it has high potential for abuse, so maybe people can become addicted to marijuana, yet that it also means that a Schedule I drug just has no medical value, meaning that they're not going to prescribe you marijuana in a hospital room. They're going to give you Tylenol, etc. So just because it's a Schedule I type drug, same as heroin, does not mean that it's comparable in any way to heroin. So it shouldn't be treated as such. Now that you know what I'm proposing, I want to tell you how this will affect the lives of thousands of people. So without implementing laws that prevent people from being incriminated for marijuana use or possession, thousands of people's futures are completely ruined. Going back to a previous point I touched on, this is also a pressing issue for minorities and people who don't come from a lot of money. And this means they can't fight a criminal charge for simple use or possession of marijuana, and in turn, this tarnishes their record. And this can happen to anyone. It can happen to a parent, a friend, anyone, and it completely ruin their future. And this is the start of the end for many people, because then they struggle getting a job, which will follow them for the rest of their lives, simply for using or possessing a drug, which is literally legalized in most of our country. So let's make a change for the people in our country who have suffered contradicting consequences for a legalized substance. I do not believe anyone should be imprisoned or criminally charged for the use or possession of marijuana. It's the year 2020, not the 1900s. Do you really view someone who uses or possesses marijuana as a criminal, so long as they aren't distributing to minors? Do you really think of marijuana as a very dangerous drug that threatens the people in this country? And for those of you who don't, let's make a change. Let's stop incriminating and charging people for marijuana use or possession. Again, the number of marijuana arrests outweighs the total number of violent crimes combined, which is absurd. Also, the marijuana industry is booming while people are sitting in jail cells reaping the consequences of using it. Does this really add up? So we need to make a change today. We need to vote people into our state and local governments who are more progressive and will hopefully enact these laws so people aren't criminally charged and have their futures completely ruined for using a drug that is legalized in much of our country. Let's make a change for the sake of the lost futures of thousands of people. Hopefully we can turn this around for some and prevent this from happening to others in the future. So, thank you.